Ayo Review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse Review Guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be doing an album review for Beartooth's newly released album entitled Disease. Oh, and yeah, this right here, this isn't a bear, this is a wolf. I'm trying, guys. So, Beartooth was formed in 2012. They're from Columbus, Ohio, signed to Red Bull Records. And honestly, they're a band that I have really held a lot of respect for a while, for many of the reasons that we're going to be talking about in this review. But the thing about this album is, I anticipated this album. I covered, I believe, one, maybe two of the teaser tracks, like the singles that were released prior to this album's release. But at the same time, I don't think I could have anticipated just how much I really would end up loving this album, and I really do dig this album. I don't mean to cut to the chase, but there are so many things that I'm wanting to talk about on this album that it's going to be probably a bit longer than usual, because I just feel like I want to analyze a little bit and give some comparisons and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the album. So Beartooth has released one EP, and this is their third studio-length album. It's 41 minutes in length and has 12 tracks in it. Every single track on this album, this is something I should point out right away, is none of the tracks eclipse the 3-minute mark in either direction. All the tracks on this album are 3 minutes in length. Not like exactly 3 minutes, but they run in the 3-minute mark, and none go into the 2-minute, none go into the 4-minute. And I think that it makes this really nice consistency where you get these structures, natural song constructs for each song that you're trying to do, where you're not necessarily trying to experiment and reinvent the wheel by going above and beyond to have like a 7-minute track and a 2-minute track and then like a 15-minute track like a lot of bands do. And I'm not saying those are bad. A lot of those songs will turn out to be very good. I'm just saying that it gives Beartooth the ability to play in a wheelhouse where they know their strengths, they know the pattern that they like to play in. And yes, this album does have a lot of patterns in it in terms of like the choruses, and they use a lot of the same effects and a lot of the same little nuances that as you're listening through the album, depending on how much you're paying attention, you're going to get these little dabbles where you're going to be like, hey, they're doing that a lot, such as when like the instrumental pauses and Caleb Shomo will give like a really just rip snarl type of screaming out some lyric, and then all the instrumentals will go in at once. That's something that I notice is prevalent a lot on this album. Or say when they'll use kind of the radio effect to start a song off with, where it'll be like kind of this radio distorted bass boosted type of sound to start the song off, with Caleb usually singing in this kind of lower aggressive type of tone where it's slow. It's almost like spoken word but not quite. Things like that, if you're paying attention, you're going to notice. And I think that when you're playing in this 3-minute mark type of wheelhouse, you really are given a lot to go off of before you write any lyrics, any music, do any vocals, any of the stuff. I feel like it's easier for them, knowing the type of music that they want to make, to really focus on what they're doing well. And I think that the 3-minute mark thing does work very well in its favor. So while we are on the topic of Caleb Shomo, when I was talking about his vocals, I think that he is fantastic on this album. He is up there with some of, in my opinion, the best vocalists in metal right now. I think that he's right up there with great vocalists such as Travis Ryan, who personally I regard as the best heavy metal vocalist in the game right now, and a lot of people seem to agree with me. The dude just has some of the best vocals I've ever heard in such amazing range. But Caleb has this very specific polarizing type of vocalization to his metal vocals. And when I say polarizing, I'm saying polarizing because I've seen people be very divided on if they like his vocals or not. And I actually have an example thing here. Dance Gavin Dance, this is their album from 2018. Caleb's vocals, especially on this album, remind me a lot of Will Swan from Dance Gavin Dance. And if you are unfamiliar with them, or if you've listened to them and don't know who I'm talking about, that's the unclean vocalist from Dance Gavin Dance. So Will Swan does the growls, the screams, the screeches. A lot of times when Caleb does go into his metal stuff, they're very kind of hardcore punk type of influenced. They're very kind of gritty screeches and screams. He very rarely growls. and the times he does growl, it sounds a bit distorted, like intentionally in the mix, but you're not going to get many metalcore growls where it's like really deep gutturals or whatever. They're usually more in that hardcore punk veneer, and that's something interesting about Beartooth, is they do take the whole hardcore punk and mix it with metalcore and some melodic hardcore, post-hardcore. You get a lot of different influences to where they're not really stuck in one, like they're not pigeonholed into one section where they're going to have to sound like one thing for the entire album. And he really does remind me of Will Swan, the way his vocals come about. Only the best way I can put it is, if you listen to Dance Gavin Dance, you will know what I'm about to say. Will Swan has this very chaotic scream. It's very kind of math rocky. It's humongously just chaotic, bolstering, just rip snarl. And the thing about that is, I feel like Caleb from Beartooth has a bit more of a controlled version of that. I feel like his screams feel very more controlled, but they have this certain type of raw abrasiveness to it. And I love it. I think that some of the transitions he can make from singing to screams is phenomenal. This isn't particular on this album, but his vocals on the song The Line. The lines, wow, in the end of the chorus where he goes like, read between the lines, when he like just goes full on in scream from a singing thing, he just has a lot of range. He has a lot of great range, and it's utilized on this album. They're really playing to his strengths. The only thing that he doesn't really do, like I said, is kind of growly vocals, but that's fine because Beartooth is unique, and they're not conventional. They don't sound like a lot of other bands. And for metalcore and like just heavy metal in general, which has a lot of cookie cutter bands, I think that Beartooth really breaks through that, and they make some fantastic music. And Caleb's vocals are definitely one of the biggest things on this album that I have to praise. The next thing I want to talk about is lyricism. I think that the lyricism on this album has so much brevity to it. It is super to the point. It's not put in a poetic way. I'm not 100% sure who writes the lyrics. I would assume it would be Caleb, but I don't want to make assumptions there. Haven't looked that up, but they don't feel the need to put it poetic, and that's one of the things that I love on this album. Beartooth always has very kind of metalcore, post-hardcore type of lyricism. You will know what I mean. But I feel like on this album it's put in a way that is super relatable. You get talk about mental issues. You get talk about depression. I get some touches of like suicidal thoughts littered throughout this thing, or at least when I break it down, I feel a bit more like sure that that's in there somewhere. And I don't know if that's written from a personal standpoint, but the way the lyrics sound, I can't see why it's not. There is some talk of relationships. There's quite a bit of talk about like being manipulated in a relationship, specifically on the song. In fact, I believe it's called Manipulation. I believe there's a song called Manipulation. And again, on the song, I believe it's entitled Enemy. Those songs really deal with relationships. They really deal with like harsh times. My favorite track on the album is entitled Disease, and that's the self-titled track from the album. And that was one of the singles, I believe, that were released. And if I remember correctly, I did a track review for that track a long time ago when it came out. But it really does blow me away every time I hear it. I love Caleb's vocals on it. He goes from raw, his singing vocals are fantastic, and the lyrics are so relatable, it's not even funny. Like, that song accurately describes my life right now. Like that, I love the lyrics to that song so much, and Caleb's vocals and the instrumentation really do complement each other on this song and forming, in my opinion, blowing out every other song in the water, the best song on the album. Instrumentation is not in any way lacking. I know I've been talking a lot about Caleb's vocals, but I think that the instrumentation is also one of the more commendable points on the entire album, because, wow, some of these riffs are genuinely just groovy. You do get the metalcore breakdowns, usually every song, and I have to say that, man, like I said, these riffs, they can border from completely distorted, fuzzy, hardcore punk-inspired riffs, kind of noise rocky, almost noise metal, mixed with like, you get these harmonious melody, beautiful pieces. you get these like hard, groovy, just like almost like groove metal type of riffs, similar to what you would maybe get from like a Lamb of God or a Pantera or a Sepultura. But honestly, the instrumentation is, in my opinion, the tightest that Beartooth has ever boasted. This is, in my opinion, Beartooth's best album. I love Beartooth and think they're a fantastic band, but I definitely feel like this album in particular has such a good natural grit to it, and it really does have the potential to be able to stand up against shoulder to shoulder some of the best albums of this year at my end year list. We're just gonna have to wait and see. This is actually gonna be very high on the list. Artificial Selection by Dance Gavin Dance. Who knows? You might see it shoulder to shoulder with that. But I can't really speak because it's a little bit far away from the end of the year. But wow, we're getting close. It's like getting cold here. I don't know if you guys are getting cold weather, but it's definitely cooling off here. But anyways, guys, I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10. I think that it came out great. I really enjoyed this album thoroughly. There's no slowdown points. Another song that I can mention is like Bad Listener. Love the lyrics on that track. Caleb sounds like an absolute beast. He sounds like a bear half the time on this album. But I want to hear what you guys think per usual, so you can post in the comment section below, and you can like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. It really does help me out a lot, and I will shout your channel out if you comment down below and like the video. Just saying that you like the video and giving whatever comment you want. I'm also doing the Q&A video, so if you want to go leave some comments over there, you can, or down below as well, because I am picking from recent videos. But I will talk to you guys next time, and I'll talk to you probably depending on when this goes up, either later today or tomorrow. See you next time. My name is Jay Morse, Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.